What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people live quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Daniel Aaron here. I am your host, and this is the Art of Vibrant Living show. I am so glad you are here. We've got an amazing show coming up for you today, a phenomenal guest. And what is the purpose? Why are we here? Yes, it's entertainment. Yes, it's information, education. Most importantly, though, it's that empowerment part. So please, I encourage you, do something with what you get here. Take the information. Debra is going to give you some beautiful gold. Take that and apply it in your life. Put it into action. And Debra is an amazing woman who has turned adversity into mastery. She's blended science, mindset, and soul. She's a master coach, a speaker, an NLP expert, and a hypnosis guide who brings decades of insight and helps people create powerful, vibrant lives. Her story is one of discipline, humor, and transformation. And I am super psyched that she is with us today. Debra, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. I've been very excited about doing this show with you.
Yay, awesome, awesome. Me too. Okay, well, let's dive into the deep end. You have come through so much, and you've done it with grace, with humor, with an amazing amount of resilience. What have you learned, and how does that shape the way you work with people?
So, very quick background. When I was 20, I was hit by a van going 45 miles an hour while I was walking across the street. Was laid up for 2 years, so many surgeries. And then that gave me the courage to pursue what I really wanted, which was to work in film and television. And so I pursued that. And when I was this far from breaking through, I had a producer ready to finance my first feature as a director. It just like it was all happening. I got sick. And I was very, very sick for a very long time and knew that even as I started to get better, that I would never go back to working in film and television because it's 18-hour days. And I can't do that, not consistently. I can maybe do one 18-hour day, but I can't do it day after day after day. And so coming out of the illness, the first thing that I learned is that my purpose is not bound to the form that I thought it had to be in. So delivering on my purpose wasn't about working in film and television. It was about transformation. I wanted to do shows and movies that were about transformation. And I can pursue and create transformation without doing it through film and television. So that's the first thing, that there are many ways to express my purpose. And what I thought was the way wasn't, or didn't have to be. So when I discovered coaching, or coaching really discovered me, I realized that I could pursue my purpose of creating transformation through coaching It didn't have to be through film and television.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing, big thing that I learned was a level of discipline through my illness, coming out of my illness, learning how to manage my illness created such a high level of discipline that I had never had before. Didn't know I could have. And through that discipline, it was the discipline that allowed me to heal. It was the discipline of pacing, of learning to understand how my energy operated now. Because before I got sick, I was the Energizer Bunny. I was always more energy than I could possibly need. And then I had none. I was bedridden for 3 years. I could barely walk. And this happened like that. It was just all of a sudden. Learning that, applying discipline to that enabled me to become productive in ways that I never thought I could be. Productive in a very short amount of time, and using my energy extremely effectively. And so those are the big picture learnings. I mean, there's a lot more, but those are the big picture learnings.
Okay, cool. Well, we got 48 things to talk about from what you just said. Let's go to this though, because you said use the word discipline, and I noted that you used it in a positive sense. And discipline is a word. It's to me, it's one of my favorite words, in part because it's used in so many different ways by so many different people. Some people hate it. Some people say it's the greatest thing ever. So let's rewind and align. What is discipline according to Debra Russell?
Discipline is consistently choosing the activities or the actions that further my goals, further what I really want, instead of choosing the actions or activities in service to my mood.
Mm-hmm.
So I may not feel like it. Discipline is not caring if I feel like it or not. Discipline is saying, nope, this is what I have to do in order to achieve what I want in my life. This is what I know is going to work to take me closer to my goals, and choosing that no matter what. Choosing that even when I'm not in the mood, when I don't feel like it, when I've got some negative voices in the back of my head, and just choosing that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's dig into that a little bit deeper because I think a lot of people, the problem they have with discipline, I guess in a way, like you said, that I don't feel like it. It sounds to them harsh, or that they are giving something up, that it takes willpower. And I think of, okay, so I see you nodding. We'll come back to that. I think of, like, the definition that I knew about it when I was in my 20s and I was first into yoga is discipline is I'm going to make myself do the thing I don't want to do because I know it'll be good for me, right? And it could be very exhausting. Later, when I became a father, I remember reading Joseph Chilton, and he defined discipline as coming from the word disciple, meaning joyful follower, right? So what's the relationship between discipline, willpower? Does it mean suffering? Is it joyful? What do you think? What's been your experience?
I agree with you that a lot of the issues that people have with the word discipline is the use of it for punishment. You were disciplined. You got corporal punishment, or you had to go to your room, or you had to do your homework before you could play, right? And willpower, see, to me, willpower is magic. Willpower is choosing a higher level of vibration, applying my will to my life. It's all about responsibility, and I'm separating those two words. Responsibility. It's the ability to respond, that I am 100% responsible for what happens in my life, including getting hit by a van, including getting sick. Not that I'm a victim of those things. And also not that I chose, like, oh, I decided to walk out in front of that van. No, not that I chose, but that I have the ability to respond to those things that happened in my world in a way that serves me instead of in a way that makes me a victim or helpless or at the effect of those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And I like the way you spoke about will and willpower. And one thing we know for sure is that willpower and discipline, at least I say we know for sure, a lot of theorists and research suggests that willpower and discipline exhaustible, right? We only have so much of it. And so in the beginning of the day, I don't have any desire to eat chocolate cake. End of the day, I could eat the whole chocolate cake, right? As an example. Not that I know anything about that personally, but so if there's any truth to that, and I'm guessing by the way you're responding, you see some truth in it. How do we develop discipline and willpower? How do we develop it, and how do we keep from our tank being drained by the end of the day?
So, okay, I have a kind of a long answer to that question, so bear with me a little bit. If you know the concepts behind cognitive behavioral therapy, so in cognitive behavioral therapy, it starts with your thoughts, beliefs. Then from those thoughts, beliefs, you have feelings or emotions or mood. From that feelings, emotions, mood, you have behavior or not behavior, right? Doing or not doing.
Hmm.
And then from those actions, you have results. And then you look at those results and you filter them through your already existing beliefs. See, that proved I was right, right? And that's the cycle in cognitive behavioral therapy, right? When you try to create change from the action place, you are constantly battling your beliefs because the beliefs are driving the feelings, which are driving your actions. But if you're saying, no, today I'm not going to eat that chocolate cake, but you have a belief that chocolate cake is the reward. I'm just making stuff up here, but then you have to, in order to choose that action, you have to be fighting that belief, which is probably unconscious, but is driving your behavior. And so it's that Sisyphus pushing the rock up to the top of the mountain. And it's exhausting because the next time you blink, the rock's back down at the bottom of the mountain and you have to push it back up again. And so as long as you're coming at it from an action place, instead of from a belief place, instead of saying chocolate cake is my reward, but I'm not allowed to have that reward, I'm going to choose not to eat it, then there's resistance built into that, and that's exhausting. But if you shift the belief about chocolate cake And for me, it's easy because I'm allergic to wheat, so I can't eat chocolate cake. I know that I will suffer if I eat chocolate cake. And I believe that, then not eating chocolate cake becomes really easy. And there is no resistance that I have to fight against. And there's no exhaustion. It's just not something I eat.
Well, let's check. Let's dissect that a little bit because, all right, and I'm not putting chocolate cake down. Chocolate cake can be great. We're just using this as an example.
Yeah.
And I love the way you spoke about it because you said you're allergic to it, which implies that if you have it, there's going to be a severe reaction, of some sort. Um, for others, we might believe that if I eat chocolate cake, I'm going to have this much pleasure, but then this much problem or pain or guilt or get fat or slow down or whatever it is, but it's not as severe as an allergic reaction. So it's the same process, same mechanism, just it's a question of severity. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the best example. Um,
Hmm.
Let me give you a different example. In
Okay.
order for my business to be successful, I need to make calls to people I've met or people who've reached out to me in various ways and have a sales conversation with them. And if I have a belief about myself in relationship to sales, or if I have a belief about sales, like if I believe that sales is icky, that's the technical term.
Hmm.
Sales is icky. Sales is used car salesman. Sales is a ripoff. Sales is corrupt. And then I have to make these sales calls. Those calls are going to be exhausting. If I choose a belief about sales, which is that it's my ability to create transformation, it's my opportunity to serve my purpose. When I'm making a call and having a conversation with someone, it's about connection. It's about insight. It's about value. It's, for me, that stuff is really fun. That belief then makes sales not exhausting because it's fun.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes good sense. So then, you make it sound so simple and easy. Well, I'll just take this belief. Is that how it works, or how do you do it?
Simple doesn't necessarily mean easy,
Okay.
right? If it were simple, if it were easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? The thing about beliefs is A, they're mostly unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually even know that we have them. We're not even aware of them. They're the wallpaper that we've seen a million times. So they're unconscious. So how do you change something that you have no awareness of, right? You have to raise it up into your conscious awareness, and then you can choose. But here's the other thing: because it's unconscious, because it was probably installed when you were 4 years old and you heard your father, this is totally me, I heard my father talk about how you can't trust salespeople
Hmm.
and you have to double check them and you have to open the box because maybe what you are buying is not actually what's in the box, right? Like, that was how my dad operated. That belief was installed when I was very, very young. So it's not conscious and it's deep. And there are all these other beliefs that were built on top of it. The reason I learned NLP and hypnosis, the reason I got certified in NLP and hypnosis, is that it gives me the ability when I'm working with clients or even when I'm working with myself to unhook that deep belief and replace it with another one. So it's simple, but it's not easy because your brain has already laid down all these pathways branching from that belief, and they're deeply entrenched. So you have that as a habit of belief. And so you have to install a new habit of belief. And it takes some effort, it takes some time, it takes some self-awareness of, oh, there's that belief again. Nope, choosing this one instead.
Well, so I'm with you, and there's you spoke about it as beliefs being like a wallpaper. Like we're so used to it, we don't even realize they're beliefs. So, from your perspective, how do we become aware of the belief in the first place?
So when I'm working with a client, I have a bunch of different exercises that help them surface their beliefs. And emotional intelligence exercises, which also helps them surface their beliefs because, again, emotions are connected to the beliefs, right? The beliefs are driving the emotions. If you can name the emotion and then uncover what is the belief that's driving that feeling, then you can start to surface those beliefs. Right now, in this moment, in this conversation, I think the best thing that you can do is listen to your thoughts from a place of, oh, isn't that interesting? Look, this is what my brain is saying today. My brain is telling me X, Y, and Z. What is the belief that that's expressing? And do I want that belief? Does that belief serve me? Or is that belief maybe in my way? Or having me choose things that aren't what I want in my life? Or making me going after the things I want in my life harder or more painful or more of a struggle? If I'm suffering, there's a belief that's driving that suffering. So, that whole Buddhist thing that you don't have to suffer. Suffering is a choice. And I like to say the struggle is real. The suffering is a choice. Right. So, yeah, we're in these bodies in this plane of existence, and struggling is part of that experience. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to suffer. You could enjoy the struggle. You could enjoy that challenge. You could decide that that's actually part of the journey that has the most value.
Well, so let's go further into that. How does somebody enjoy the struggle? Like, as far as I know, we're brought up to think, and I certainly have a lot of my life thought, struggle is to be avoided. I want to get out of struggle. If I'm in a conflict, then I'm going to do everything I can to get out of it. And by the way, I'm speaking somewhat as angel's advocate here, right? Because there's a lot of the stuff that we talk about in our world as coaches and teachers and helpers that to us seems obvious, though I find it useful to kind of go back to basics and break it down a bit.
Absolutely. I work with professional athletes in my coaching. It's one of the kinds of people that I tend to work with. And professional athletes have been training since they were like 3 or 4, and training in a way that is boring, repetitive, painful, injuries that are painful. Right? So there's something in the mindset of a professional athlete that is different, that does not shy away from the struggle, that seeks out the struggle, because that's what it takes to become an elite athlete. And it's why, 1% of college athletes make it into the pros, 1% of high school athletes make it into a college athlete program, right? It's just very narrow. And I think that the key is making the goal worth it. If the goal is worth it, if you want that goal more than chocolate cake, then you choose the goal over and over and over again. And that's what discipline looks like. Discipline is really just making the choice over and over and over again. Commitment is just making the choice over and over and over again. And the belief set that's behind it is, if I choose, then I'll have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I choose that, one of the things my coach says is the law of action, and I've got it on my wall, that's why I'm reading it off my wall. The law of action: by thought you create, by action you receive. I'm going to say that again because it's so vital. By thought you create, by action you receive. So if you choose the thoughts, and thoughts are just an expression of belief. If you choose the thought, I am successful, I am worth, I am, right? If you choose those thoughts and then take the actions that embody those thoughts, then the world will reflect that back to you.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just short. You can work with someone like me who can lay down the beliefs in your unconscious mind through things like NLP and hypnosis. Or you can just work on being conscious and say, what am I thinking? What's the belief that drives that thought? Do I want that belief? Does that belief serve me? No? Let me choose a different belief.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. All right. Well, I want to get one more question on this topic here. The difference. How do we work with? How do you work with? How do you advise people to work with the challenge between the visible and the invisible, right? Because the goal is more important. Okay, and if I'm a Olympic sprinter, right, winning the gold medal is my goal, and that's more important, and that is conceptual and somewhere out in the future. Maybe it's 2 years before the games are even going to begin, the next round. And the
Or 20.
chocolate cake, it's visible, it's right here, it's right now, right?
Yeah.
How do people make that invisible long-term goal more real, right? It's way out here in the invisible ethers. How do they make that more real than what's right in front of them and tempting them?
Okay. So there's a couple things you can do. Um, when a client makes a goal, one of the first things I have them do is to write a vision. And in my experience, the most effective visions are something I call a day in the life.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you do is you have this goal and you look out into the future and you imagine, what is my life like now that goal is real? What is my life like now that I have that goal? And then you write a short story, 2 to 3 pages, in first person, present tense, really critical that it's in present tense. And in fact, stating the goal needs to be in present tense, not future tense. And you describe what's a day in the life like now that you have this goal. So from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, you include as much sensory, as much emotional, as much like visual, auditory, kinesthetic experience into telling the story of that day. So it's not just what you're doing, it's who are you doing it with? Where are you? How do you feel? What's your body feel like? What are you tasting and smelling. What are you wearing? How do those clothes feel on your body, right? As much detail as you can get into that telling of the story of that day. But you say it's in the present tense. You have it now. You're living it now. And then every day you read that vision. I read mine in the morning before I start my day. I've had clients who've made recordings of their voice reading the vision, and they listen to it at night before going to sleep every night. Because, and there's a lot of research around this, your brain cannot differentiate between something vividly imagined and something experienced as real. Your brain can't tell the difference. So the more you give yourself the experience of it vividly imagined, your brain says, but wait, how do I make that happen? And all of a sudden your creativity, your filters for the opportunities you're seeing around you get triggered and brought into action. And you suddenly have all these serendipities. And how did this happen? And how did that happen? And how did I meet Daniel? And how did he invite me to be on his show, right? All of these things that you've created in your vision, you start seeing everywhere.
I love it. I'm with you. And it's, I know from my own experience and research, it's irrefutably true. And we've got so many masters that teach this. I love the work of Neville Goddard and Imaginal Scenes. One more question, though, because my sense, and tell me what you think on this, is my sense is there are a lot of people that will be hearing what you're saying, right, are with us live or by rebroadcast, and they go, yeah, that's true. I get it. I'm with you. Yep. Right. Write that story, present tense, read it out loud. I'm going to do that. And they write it out and they do it. And then they read it tomorrow. And then next day they go, well, I'll read it to them the next day. And then they don't keep doing it. What is it that has people fall off from the thing we know, but then don't actually follow through with it? You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I think it could be a lot of things. It really is fairly individual, but I'm betting that there is a belief that gets in the way. There is a belief that really they can't have that thing. Or there is a belief that this is very woo-woo and, it's not real and, that's just, I don't believe in that stuff, right? Or there's something that is driving their behavior that is not in alignment with them creating their vision. Now, as a coach, when I'm working with a client, that's a question I ask, like, what stopped you? What was the voice? How did you know it was time to stop? How did you know that you stopped believing that this could make something happen? How did you know? What was the belief? What was the thought that stopped you? The other thing is habit. So I have a habit built into my productivity, which I call bookends. It's my morning bookends and my evening bookends, and they bookend my day. And in the morning, one of the things that I do in my morning bookends is read my vision, read my goals. And by goals, I mean the short-term goals, the 3 to 4 month out goals, as well as what actions have I decided to take today, all of that. And then in my evening bookends, I do a gratitude journal. I celebrate my day's accomplishments. I celebrate what I've learned today, and I celebrate what I'm grateful for. And that bookend of my day, when I do that, and I'm not always consistent, I have bad days with my illness that I'm not productive that day, and so it doesn't happen. Nobody's perfect, and you don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Creating that habit creates an experience of myself that builds the beliefs that are, yes, I can have that goal, as opposed to the beliefs of, no, I can't.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So,
Habits.
right. So the habit of doing the things that empower those beliefs, that's really what so that's a big part of it. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, well, I'm going to restrain myself from diving more into habits because that's a whole juicy avenue we could go down.
Whole
However,
show on that.
yeah, well, whole show on that. I'm aware that our time is ticking along here, though. So if I pause for a second and ask you, is there anything, Deborah, that I haven't asked you about, or that you would like to bring forward now?
Um, if I could, I'd like to talk a little bit about what I believe goes into productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of touched on productivity a little bit, but coming out of being bedridden, where I was able to be upright maybe 5 minutes at a time, maybe 4 or 5 times a day, right? And that was it. That was all I could do. That's what I mean by bedridden. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
literally laying flat, um, to where I am now. What I learned about productivity and time management, because I had to manage my time so carefully, is that, and what I think people are missing, is that there are actually 4 pillars of time management. So there's mindset, which we've been talking about this whole time. There's systems and structure, which I talked about with my bookends, right? That's an
Mm-hmm.
aspect of my system and structure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's habits, which we also mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's implementation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how pretty your habits are, how pretty your time management systems are. If you haven't implemented it and created the habit of using it every single day, then it's all going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you need in order to do that implementation? Mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's all those 4 pillars need to all be in place and working for you in order for you to be your most productive in a way that's healthy and sustainable. This is not about the grind, right? This is about being healthy and sustainable in a way that is disciplined and consistent.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Well, as you spoke of that, what it reminded me of is I remember many years ago, well, specifically 18 years ago, I know, because I'm thinking of when my daughter was born or when she was about to be born. I had a training company and I just launched a line of essential oils and a line of super herb products. And I was already very busy and I was opening 2 more businesses. And everybody said to me, and you're about to have a child? Like, what's wrong with you? How are you going to do all that? But somehow I had the intuition that because my daughter was going to be the most important thing, that I would have to get much better at being productive. And it sounds like for you, getting a few 5 minute bursts of being upright during the day was like the ultimate leverage that said, you got to get really focused with your time. And it sounds like that's what prompted you to learn so much about this.
exactly. Exactly. And it's what also got me well,
Mm,
because I learned to not push past that
mm,
limitation
right,
until I was well enough to go to the next level, to go from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, to go from
right.
10 minutes to 15 minutes, to go from 4 or 5 segments of those to go to 8 segments of those, right? Until I was able to. The reason people with my illness stay sick is that they keep trying to go back to the way they lived before they got sick. I'll never go back to the way I lived before I got sick, because that just gets me sick again.
Yeah, I'm with you. Beautiful.
So, yep. So that's discipline, right? That's habit, that's structure and systems, that's mindset, willpower, that's all of those things functioning to the goal of being well.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, well, let me check with you, Deborah, because I believe you kindly have brought a free gift for our audience. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. I'm very excited about this.
Well,
So
tell us,
I
yeah.
have an ebook. I have an ebook about productivity called,
Hmm.
and oh, I can never remember the name of it because that's just, short-term brain stuff. So let me just pull it up real quick. But it is about overwhelm and productivity, which I believe are the most foundational of mindset issues that people have.
Hmm.
And so the title of the ebook is, hang on a second, let me get my URL and go there. Okay, sorry about that. So the title of the book is Move from Overwhelm into Action, a guide to shift from procrastination into productivity. And what this will give you is a starting point in shifting your mindset around your productivity and time management. Because let's face it, in our world today, overwhelm is endemic. It's just everywhere. We're all pretty overwhelmed, and overwhelm causes or exacerbates procrastination.
Hmm.
And for the first 10 people, I can't do this for everybody, but for the first 10 people who jump on this, I will give you a 45-minute strategy call on your profit accelerator. So if you have a business, then do a call with me. We'll get into some strategy. It's a profit accelerator strategy session. We'll look at where you are. We'll look at where you want to get to. We'll talk about how you're going to get there. Okay. And when you click the link that Daniel's going to give you guys, there's at the bottom, there's a little box, a checkbox that says, yes, I want that session. And that will zero out the cost, which is $350.
Mm-hmm.
It's my gift to your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to schedule a call with me. And it's with me, it's not with anyone else, it's with me personally.
Well, that's awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. So I just put the link into the comments. So whatever platform you're watching on, you can see it there. If you're tuning in by rebroadcast, look in the show notes. And it would be wise to act soon to be one of those first 10 people. So what a beautiful offer. Thank you for creating that. Thank you for sharing it with us. And beyond that, aside from that, Deborah, what's the best way for people to tune in to you and what you are up to?
Well, you can go to debrarussellcoaching.com. And if you download the ebook, you'll be on my mailing list. And my mailing list, they, all the opportunities to hear me speak, to see me speak, and, get in touch with me. And my email address is Debra@debrarussellcoaching.com. So if you can spell my name, you can get in touch with me. Now, just be aware, there is another Debra Russell who is a coach,
Wow.
and she spells
Imposter.
her name the same way I do. She
Wow.
grabbed the DebraRussell.com website before I did. So mine is DebraRussellCoaching.com.
Perfect. Good to have the distinction. Thank you. Okay, well, I think that brings us up to the final question, the big question. Can I ask you the big question, Deborah?
Oh, please.
Okay. It's so big, it's impossible. Can't get it right, but it's so impossible you can't get it wrong. And I say that because you have so much experience, so much wisdom, so much hard fought success in your life. If you were to distill all of that and bring one thing forward, if there was just one thing you could share with our audience to help them live their most vibrant, thriving life, what's that one thing?
Never give up, never surrender. Just, you've got nothing to lose. Go for it with all that you have, and you don't have to do it alone. Get support, get an accountability partner, work with a coach. You can do this. You can have what you want in your life.
I love it. Never give up, never surrender. You can do this. Beautiful. Well, Debra, thank you for not giving up. You certainly had plenty of opportunities to do so. And you have persevered and turned yourself into someone who gives so much to the world. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here with us today.
It's absolutely my pleasure, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, and for y'all in our audience, thank you for being here. You are the true heroes. You're the reason that I'm here, and the fact that you are interested in the art of vibrant living and doing something more than interest. You're actually educating yourself. And remember now, do something with what you've learned. Take something into practice. Put it into your life. If you'd like some help, send me an email, daniel@danielaaron.com. Definitely grab Debra's ebook. Get in touch. Thank you for being here. I love you. We'll see you soon. Aloha.